All right, I think we're a couple minutes past the hour here, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about how to actually use AI inside of HubSpot for your day-to-day work. So, the idea here is it's not going to be theory, it's going to be practical. We're not going to talk about prompt engineering or what we think AI is going to do in the next 3 to 5 years. We're not going to act like we have a crystal ball. We're going to talk about what is real and practical and things you can actually take advantage of today when it comes to marketing, sales, and service workflows directly inside of HubSpot. So, I think one of the biggest misconceptions we're seeing today is that teams typically think AI is something that you might just go out and implement separately, like a new tool or a side project. But in HubSpot, it's really not how it works. AI is not really just a layer that you bolt on when it comes to HubSpot. It's something that lives and breathes directly inside of your CRM. It leverages your data, your processes, and your workflows. So the goal for today is really pretty simple. It's just to show you what that actually looks like in practice and how to start using it in a way that can drive real results and not just experimentation. So, I'm Zach Terry. I'm the director of AI at Fast Slow Motion, and my role is focused on helping teams actually implement AI inside of HubSpot, as opposed to just exploring it, really wanting to drive into real results and wiring it into your workflows, marketing, sales, and service. And so, a lot of what we'll talk about today comes directly from what we're seeing with our clients and our customers and where we're seeing work and where teams tend to get stuck. I'm also joined by Miranda Tanner from HubSpot. Miranda is joining us for a part of this session, and she leads product marketing for HubSpot's AI platform and agents. And so really brings just a wealth of valuable perspective and experience on how this thing actually works inside of HubSpot and how it's being built and how HubSpot is thinking about AI and adoption across the ecosystem. So I'm really excited to get into this with you today. Between the two of us, the goal is really to give you both sides, what HubSpot is doing at the product level and how to actually apply it in your day-to-day work. So if you have any questions at all throughout this session, check out the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Feel free to submit any questions you have throughout this presentation, and then we will do our best to address as many as we have time for at the end of the presentation. So with that, let's get into it. So here's how we're going to spend our time today. First, we're going to level set on what AI in HubSpot actually means now, because this has evolved very quickly. The whole ecosystem is evolving very quickly, and it's hard to imagine it's really only been a year and a half or so since we've had these tools available in our CRM platforms. So if you're still thinking about AI as a simple content generation assistant or prompts and writing the right words, we're here to reframe that a bit today. So from there, we'll go straight into a demo. And this is really the core of the session today, showing you how AI actually shows up inside your day-to-day workflows. From there, we'll zoom out and talk about AI-powered insights, what you should be getting from the system once this is set up correctly, and how it starts to influence your decision making. After that, we'll cover what breaks AI adoption. And this is a big one because most teams that fail do so because there's a bad foundation in place. And maybe that's a data foundation. Maybe it's untrusted data, or maybe it's just a process and it isn't being operationalized well. So we'll talk a little bit about that and what we're seeing. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a few key takeaways and what to do next. So with that, let's get started by defining what AI in HubSpot actually means. Miranda, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks so much, Zach. Now, before I talk about, what we've built, I kind of want to start with like where the industry's at right now. I think Zach, like you and I, we can both relate to this, but like most teams right now are using some form of AI, right? Like we're all kind of experimenting, but the results have been, mixed, right? If maybe some of us have tried something, as marketers where, we're promised to have some kind of personalized campaign at scale. But in reality, it's like just a bunch of generic content that kind of sounds like everyone else's. In sales, maybe it was this promise for, personalized sales outreach, right? And what we were really seeing was a bunch of like LinkedIn notes where it was like, I noticed your company does XYZ things. And, right? And then in service, it was that, promise of like 24/7 support that feels human or what have you. But in reality, when we played around with these different tools, it kind of felt like a flowchart, right? And it's honestly the same story in every function, right? And the reason is really always the same thing too. AI is missing the one thing that, your best people have always brought to their work, which is context, right? It's not just data, but it's like context is the judgment, right? The pattern recognition, the institutional memory that makes work actually good. Without it, AI is pulling from this like one size fits all, wisdom of the internet, right? It doesn't know your customers, it doesn't know your business or what actually drives results for companies like ours, right? And that's why the output looks like super impressive at first, but the outcomes kind of disappoint, right? We're pushing all this content and all, more emails and more research, but it didn't doesn't always translate to better pipeline or conversion or tickets being, resolved any faster. So, what does context actually mean? We think about it in three ways. So, first, it's that like brand and audience understanding, right? Knowing which segment to reach out with the right product at the right time. And second, it is pattern recognition. It's knowing which prospects to, prioritize because you've won similar ones before, for example. And then third is that institutional memory, right? Knowing that another customer flagged the same issue last week or that deals like this one always stall at a specific stage. Things like that, right? That's context built over time. And a lot of our AI tools just don't have access to any of it. Now, the challenge is that like that context is buried in our heads, right? It's scattered across systems and it's embedded in how our teams actually work. So every time, we fire up an AI tool, we're starting from scratch, right? We're pasting in maybe the brand guidelines, or maybe we're reconfiguring our workflows, or, maybe we are reteaching the tool how our business works. And the result there is that we end up being the bridge between every disconnected system. And that ultimately leaves, Zach, you and I and our teams doing this like copy paste like dance or Olympics, right? Where, we're hopping between these like systems and tabs and manually moving context, right, from one place to another. That's not AI that's working for you, right? That's you working for AI. And that's really the problem that, HubSpot built Breeze to solve. For kind of a refresher or for any new friends here, hello. Breeze is HubSpot's AI, and it's not something that, we bought and we bolted on. It's actually something that, over the last few years, we've rebuilt into our platform. So AI is native to everything that, your team does. That means that it's one platform, it's one data model, and one code base. And what's neat is Breeze works in two ways. So we've got AI that's going to work with you, that's Breeze Assistant. It's going to help with like daily tasks and surface insights and recommendations, and it's grounded in your real HubSpot CRM data, right? And then we also have AI that doesn't just work with you, but works alongside you, for you. Those are our Breeze agents. These are like, your digital teammates. Think of them as like they are going to help to take entire workflows off your plate so that, you and I can focus on the work that actually matters. And I'll show you that what that looks like here in a second. But I want to start with Breeze Assistant, actually. Go here. All right. So Breeze Assistant is your AI expert. It's built right into HubSpot. Most tools, again, with AI, you have to start from zero every time you open them up, right? You paste in the context, you explain your customers, you describe your goals, and then you do it all over again tomorrow. Breeze Assistant skips all of that. Because it lives right inside of HubSpot, it's connected to your CRM data, your deals, your conversations, your brand voice. I mean, it's all connected. It is going to help do things like draft emails in your voice, prep you for meetings, summarize calls, and update, your CRM. And it does all of this without you ever having to leave HubSpot. So whether you are on your desktop or on the go with the HubSpot mobile app, it's right there with you. And here's the big thing. It is included in every subscription. You don't have to buy it, you don't have to configure it, you don't have to connect it to anything. It is literally already there. Customers using Breeze Assistant create 2.2 times more contacts, close 2.5 more deals, and generate 4 times more leads on average. That right there, my friends, is not AI replacing work. That's really, AI making the work that you're already doing just significantly more effective. So, with that, let me show you what we've been working on at Spring Spotlight. Okay, so I'm just going to hop on over here. Okay, let's start with meeting prep because this is the one that like, I don't know, lands every time and I just really like it. But imagine, Zach, you and I, we have been in back-to-backs all day. We have a meeting with a prospect here in 20 minutes. We know that we should prep, but again, we've been in back-to-backs. In the old way, we might have opened up the contact record. We are digging through those emails. We are trying to remember what was said the last time. Maybe we're just kind of scrubbing through like a call recording, whatever, right? That's like 10 to 15 minutes easy. In the new world, all I have to do is just click prepare right over here. Just gonna click prepare, and it's going to help me set up my meeting. In about 10 seconds or so, my internet is feeling some type of way today. It's going to pull everything together, right? That is my relationship summary, that's deal stage, recent interactions, things to watch out for, suggested talking points. So I'm going to scroll down here. We're going to see this. You see these little bubbles over here? These are citations. Looks like it's still loading, so I'm going to give it a minute. There we go. But yeah, it's giving me everything that I need. This isn't AI making things up. It's literally like pulling from my notes, my data, right? It's all of that. It's just organized in a way that like is going to help us set us up for our next meeting. Um, in this world, right, you and I are going to walk into that call prepared without spending 15 minutes to get there. And here's a small detail that's going to make a difference over time. Breeze Assistant also has memory. So, look, maybe you don't like TLDRs. I personally do, but so I've set it up this way. But you can go over here and you can actually take a look at the memory. So the things that I've asked Breeze Assistant to remember in the future. So again, you'll see that prefers TLDRs note there, but I don't know, Zach, maybe you like paragraphs. Maybe you want it like written to you in Shakespearean. You can do that.
I mean,
Every
what's a good summary without a TLDR?
exactly. Exactly. But again, however you want it to be prepared for you, you can just do that. So that means again, every future meeting prep is going to come that way. Each person on your team can also set their own preferences. Again, maybe you want Shakespearean and I want TLDRs. We can do that. It's however we want to work. So it's pretty awesome in that sense.
Yeah, Miranda, I think like one thing just to think about here too, you didn't have to do any extra work here, right? Like this is just how you're using the CRM. You're logging notes, you're logging activities. It's just
Exactly.
the things you would typically do in your day to day, and then Breeze is just making it all make sense together.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Now, this next one is fast, but it is one of the like more like used features that we have across teams. So instead of, like tabbing between, the different, I've got like you can see like 50 tabs here, but instead of having to do that or going through and digging through different old emails or whatever it is, I could just, ask something like, "Hey, tell me about this deal." I have this one pre-populated because I guess I'm prepared, but you'll see here that I asked, "Tell me about this deal." I'm on a deal record right now, and it has given me again the deal history. It's given me key contacts, recent activity, and all of this here is in one place. If you are in service, you could also ask something like, "Hey, show me." I think I have this one pre-prepared too. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Show me all recent interactions with, in this case, this is like a demo customer, Maya Patel, right? And I'm going to see here that I've got, full history, every touch point, source, so that again, you and I and our reps have context before the first hello. And one more thing, just to reiterate, this is included in every HubSpot subscription. Like you don't have to buy it, you don't have to configure it, you don't have to connect it, you don't have to do anything. It is literally already there. All right. So there's that. But let's also talk about drafting, right? Because this is kind of like this is where I think we see a lot of like generic AI like being the most obvious, right? Let's copy that prompt and start all over again. There we go. But if we ask a generic AI tool to write something, it's gonna do something, right? It's gonna write it, but it doesn't know like the conversation that happened. It doesn't know the customer's history. So it sounds very generic, right? And I think in those cases we find ourselves like spending more time editing or revising it than we would have if we just wrote it from scratch. So if I were to say something like, draft a follow-up email after the demo we had. It's going to do exactly what we just saw with the other tabs, where it's going to pull the deal context, the conversation history, what was said, and it's going to write something that actually sounds like it came from someone who was in that meeting, not like, "Hi, great connecting with you." None of that. It's going to be something specific that's grounded in the actual conversation. Again, my internet might be just a little laggy here, but I'm gonna, oh no, no, it's perfect. Cool. So again, it's going to pull all of that context there. What I also really like about this is, let's see here. Okay, I don't have my email connected in this demo portal, but if I did, I would be able to just easily insert this into the email and send it right off. This is actually something that's new that we made available at Spring Spotlight as well. But just kind of off the cuff, like other things that you could ask could be, write an empathetic response to Zach, who's frustrated about an order that was late or something like that, right? We could easily do that. All the context it's there. It's going to pull something really nice. Um, I think, Zach, you and I, we've played around with AI long enough to know that, you should always like review and refine it. Definitely don't take it for face value, but it will certainly help, save a few minutes.
Yeah, and I think too, like one of the less obvious uses of Assistant. I mean, fast flow motion, what do? We do a lot of configuration and implementation for our clients, right? Well, Breeze Assistant can also do that too. I mean, I've had Breeze Assistant go in and create custom objects and create custom properties and answer questions about where to find something in HubSpot. And so it's not just for analyzing your data, it can also be used to actually help you administrate and run your HubSpot instance.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, we've had a lot of improvements over the last couple of months. It's very cool. Now I want to show you something else that was a big part of what we brought to Life at Spring Spotlight, and um, that is specifically for marketing teams. So Breeze Assistant is now a loop marketing expert. So if you're not familiar with loop marketing, it is HubSpot's framework for modern go-to-market, right? It is a playbook for building campaigns, defining your ideal customers, creating brand guides, and things like that. And really built in a way for the AI era. Um, I'd say what makes this different from any other AI tool that your marketing team might be using is that Breeze Assistant doesn't just know loop marketing from the web, it knows your version of it. So your ICP settings, your brand guide, your campaign history, your customer data, right? So when someone asks for help, the guidance is grounded in how your business actually runs. So you'll see here that I've got a prompt. It is what is loop marketing and how is it different from the traditional funnel? You're going to see here again with the citations that it is going to give that explanation very clearly. This is the kind of question I feel like, maybe a junior marketer or someone that's new to HubSpot might ask when they're just getting started. But to your point, Zach, it's also pulling from HubSpot's Academy and knowledge base too. So the next time, someone's trying to, figure out like where a feature lives, like you said, or how something works, they just ask Breeze instead of like having to like hunt through docs or anything like that. And again, everything is cited, everything is traceable. But we could also ask something like, how do I, let me just start a new one here. How do I, create a campaign brief for the amplify stage, which is the stage in loop, based on, our customer data? What we're going to see here again is not a generic template. It is pulling again from your actual campaigns and your customer records to give guidance that's specific to your business. That means that, a new team member can go from like zero loop knowledge to launching like their first campaign in like days, not weeks. Again, it is in that TLDR format because that is my preference, but again, you can craft it however you like. Um, but yeah, we'll see lots of information here. Maybe we're the type of people that I don't want to see this much context or whatever. Again, you can totally shape it to how you see fit. Another prompt, I won't put it here because I don't, this is a fake portal, but you could also ask something like, hey, how much traffic did we get from ChatGPT last month compared to the month before? And it would pull those results. In this case, Zen Plant Care is not legit. So there won't be any result there, but that's that talk to my data side of Breeze Assistant, right? Instead of like pulling a report, you could just ask, right? We've got web analytics, campaign performance, lead sources. It's all available in natural language. And I'd say, the other thing is the same as like, when you're using ChatGPT or what have you, but the more you use HubSpot, the sharper Breeze is going to get, right? And it works across the whole team. So senior marketers can ask about Loop best practices and HubSpot features. Junior marketers can ask, how do you define audiences or build briefs? How do you maintain brand voice? Things like that. Everyone gets answers shaped by their role in their actual data. So that's Breeze Assistant. Let's hop over to Customer Agent. All right, we're turning it up a notch. Customer Agent is the AI that works for you, not just with you. Here's the reality that most teams are facing, right? Maybe your ticket volume is growing, or maybe you're getting tons of like web inquiries, um, maybe in like waves or certain seasonal moments. But the only solution has typically been that, you're going to need to hire more and more people. But the reality is, we're seeing prospects show up at like 11 p.m. and they're leaving without converting because nobody's there, right? Um, the next day rolls around and your best reps spend half their day answering the same 5 questions, right? Customer Agent changes that. It handles questions end to end 24/7 across a variety of channels, including, chat, email, WhatsApp. We've got voice now as well. And because it lives inside of HubSpot, similar to Breeze Assistant, every response is grounded in your actual customer data, not generic answers from the internet. On average, Customer Agent resolves 70% of conversations without, us needing to, touch them. The conversations that do need a human get resolved 39% faster because the agent is also, handing off full context. We're not having to start from like, step one. Now, I know that deploying an AI agent can feel like a big step. The philosophy that we've kind of built around this is relatively simple, which is start small and scale with confidence. You are always in control. You choose which channels it's active on, what hours it runs, and exactly when it hands off to a human. You can even test it yourself, like as many times as you want before any customer ever sees a first response. And then just to make that first step even easier, we recently rolled out a 28-day free trial. So your free access starts the moment that you deploy, and there are no credits used and there's no pressure. It's just 28 days for you to test it with real conversations and prove that it works before you need to spend anything. So let me show you what we've got cooking for Spring Spotlight for Customer Agent. All right. If you're like me, you probably want to try something new, but you're always like just a little, nervous because you feel like it could be risky. I feel like that's kind of the vibe that a lot of people are feeling about AI agents, right? And honestly, that's like super fair because it is like a relatively new concept. Some are super complex, others are, simpler. It just feels like it just can, feel overwhelming. So let me show you what we did. All right. For those of us that have played around with Customer Agent or know a little bit about what it looks like, this is what the guidelines page looks like. But if you were, new and just curious about where it was in app, you just go right over here in the service and you'll see Customer Agent here. When you click on it, you'll either land on a page like this or you're going to land on a Create Customer Agent kind of zero state page. But let's say we've kind of done some initial stuff and we are going to hop back over to guidelines. Okay, and I want to start here because this is a thing that's really going to make a difference between how an agent sounds or, whether it kind of sounds like, a bot. So, Zach, let's think about our best support rep for a second, right? They know how to handle an angry customer without making it worse. They know which topics to escalate and which ones to own. And they know exactly how our brand sounds, right? That's not something that like we could just like turn on with AI and like just kind of let it go, right? You have to teach it. And guidelines are kind of how you do that. So we've got these 4 little areas here. We've got tones, we've got boundaries, we've got format, we've got scripts. And really here you define it, right? How warm, how formal, how concise. You can set hard boundaries. So maybe there are some topics that the agent should never engage with. Maybe there are things that it should always pass off, right? You control how it formats responses. And you can also give it very scripted phrases, right? Exact language that you always wanted to use. So when a customer reaches out to Zach at 2 a.m. frustrated about a billing issue, customer agent is going to be like, whoa, okay, I'm going to pass it off because that's what we want, right? We don't want, we just want a human to handle those. So that's what's really cool about it. What I like though is that for a lot of people when they land on here, obviously mine is set up, but if you're new, these boxes are going to be blank, which can be a little overwhelming or intimidating. We just rolled out this like ability here to basically click into a template. And so you can kind of just, pick maybe a few, maybe, we want it to be concise. Maybe we want it to be, comprehensive. And then, Zach, you and I, we can just go in here and choose whatever and alter or revise however we see fit. I can also just click optimize here and, it'll revise it for me, but we can accept it, we can dismiss it. There's no prompt engineering or guesswork though that's needed. It's just like our brand, our rules, and it's our agent, right?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite AI concepts. And feel free to put a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat. But has anyone ever been intimidated by looking at an empty chat box and trying to figure out what the heck you're supposed to write to get an answer to the question?
I know
I
I have.
know that I was, and sometimes I still am, right? It can be hard to figure out exactly how to write something in order to get the best results. But I think that's what's so great about a tool like this that optimized button. You're using AI to help you write instructions for your AI. So it's a technique called meta prompting, where you're using AI to actually go and help structure your thoughts and format it in the right way that's most conducive for another AI to follow those instructions. And so I think for me, that was a really big, I'll use an AI word. It was a big unlock for me, right? When I kind of
Mhm.
figured out that I could use AI to do that. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can get some really good results because it's writing the instructions a little bit better, right? Like it knows how it wants to receive those instructions. And then of course, you go and you massage it a little bit. You make sure that it's actually including all of the right information for you. But I found that to just be a huge help to use AI to help you figure out how to write those instructions in the right way.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Okay, so let's say, you and I, we've set this up. This is exactly how we want it. Now, the next question is like, how do I know that it's actually going to work before my customers see it, right? That's a legitimate question. So what we've built out is, I'm just going to click this little tab here, but we've built out this testing thing here. You can see it here. You can also open it up in this test preview, but I've got this tab open here. And what we can do is we can test the chat. So like the web chat interface, we can also test email. We can also test voice. Today, we're just going to focus on email, but say, we've got a question here and I'm totally going to rip this one just to see what we get here. And I'm going to say in the subject, please help me. Very creative subject there. Now, what we're going to see here is a response. There we go. It's working on it right now. But for many support teams, email is your highest support volume. It's also where mistakes feel very visible, right? If a bad chat response is awkward, then, it gets forwarded to your whole team and then, it's hot mess. So before anything goes live, I can actually test a message right here and then see exactly what the agent would send back. I'm going to see the format. I'm going to see the signature, the sources it's pulling from, why it answered the way it did. I'm seeing literally everything here, right? So again, we're seeing those sources. Looks like it's pulling from my homepage. It's asking if the question's been answered. But if I don't like it or if it feels kind of off, then I can go back to the guidelines. I can tweak it and then test it again. I can also improve the response right over here. But the TLDR here is that like I can keep testing this until I'm happy, right? No customer needs to see anything until I am personally feeling confident and ready to go.
Yeah,
So
and I'll just mention that that whole testing and refinement process is par for the course. That is an incredibly normal and important part of working with AI systems. You will probably never just turn on an AI system and then it works exactly the way that you want it to. It's a process of testing and refinement and modifying the instructions and making sure that you're getting the result that you want. So if you ever work with a tool like this and you find that the first attempt isn't great, well, that's perfectly normal. It's one of those things that just takes a little bit of time to work through it, understand how it's interpreting those instructions, and then getting you that output. And over time, you're able to refine that and get the results that you want.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and meanwhile, we have not turned on the 28-day free trial yet. Like we haven't deployed anything right now. We are still setting up and playing with all the configurations. So haven't even gotten that far yet. But once we have configured it, once we've tested it, and we're like, yep, I love this answer so much, let's talk about, how we turn it on. Because this is where I feel like a lot of teams, and I totally understand, get like a little nervous, and honestly, rightfully so. So we change this experience completely. But actually, before I kind of show you those deployment controls, I do want to show you this screen right over here. So all right. If you haven't if you haven't deployed Customer Agent yet, this is what you're going to see when you head over to that deployment channel, which is what we would have done next after, we tested the emails, right? This is where you would activate your free trial. Um, And how it works is if you're on a professional or enterprise subscription and you haven't previously used Customer Agent, you qualify. During the 28 days, the agent's going to run completely free. Again, no credits touched, no impact to your plan. You're just going to get access to this feature free. And I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like here in a little bit. But your trial is going to start the moment that you deploy to a channel. So if I'm going to maybe turn Customer Agent on web chat for maybe a specific homepage, that would be deploying it to a channel. Now, when you set it up, not when you set it up, sorry, when you actually go live. So you can configure everything, you can test it, you can get it exactly right, and your 28 days does not start again until you turn it on for real customers. You're going to get a reminder about 4 days before it ends, and if you decide to keep going after that, you just re-enable it, and the credits kick in from there. So if you are watching this and you haven't tried it yet, this is your moment. Go set it up, test it, run it free again for 28 days, and see what it does for your team before you have to spend anything. Okay. But if you are like us, and we do have tons of channels here, this is what you're going to see, right? So we've just done the testing. We feel super confident and we are ready to turn it on. We are going to turn it on here. But this is where the control actually kicks in. So what I really like about this is that I can set working hours, right? So you, I, Zach, us, we get to decide exactly when the agent is live. A lot of teams start with like after hours only, say like nights or weekends, the hours like, when no one on your team is available anyway. That way your customers still get an instant answer. Your team comes in the morning and they can review, kind of what comes through. It's very low risk, immediate value, and it's a very natural, first step. What you can also do is just start with, say, a percentage. Maybe you just want 10%. Maybe you want the agent to handle, 1 in 10 emails or what have you. You can watch how it performs with real traffic. And then when you like what you see, you can scale it up to 25, then 50, then, 100. Really what we're doing here is building confidence with real data at every step and not just kind of like, fingers crossed, and just kind of hoping for the best. And if you want a little bit more precision, right? Say, maybe we want Customer Agent to handle very specific conversations, or we want it to hand off very specific conversations. We can do that with workflows too. So things like, maybe we want Customer Agent to only handle like free tier customers. Maybe we want enterprise accounts to be handled to humans. Maybe we want specific tickets or types of tickets escalated, and everything else is handled by the agent. I mean, you can literally get as granular as you want. This is your business logic built right into the agent. So in this very basic example here, I want to make sure that my team doesn't have to waste their time on, simple like product questions over and over, right? So I'm going to pass it over to Customer Agent to handle. Again, this is a very simple example here, but I just kind of want to spark some inspo, right? The point is like you don't have to go all in on day one. You just go as fast as slow, as your team is ready for. So
And Miranda, would you say that this is also a good credit optimization strategy to make sure that, only the right tickets are being assigned to the agent versus being assigned to a human and then kind of, being able to change that
debuffer.
over time as you're analyzing and seeing how it's working?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can choose again exactly how you want Customer Agent to handle those conversations, just all based off of your business needs. All right, now I want to take a second here to explain why Customer Agent resolves more than say other agents that are out there, or maybe some that you've seen or tried. And that's really because before, let's see here. Nope, I'm just gonna hop right on over here. Before your agent talks to anyone, you're going to set it up with all of the content that it needs to know about your business. So that is your, let me see here. There we go. That is like your knowledge base articles, your website pages, your product catalogs, your pricing docs, your FAQs. I mean, literally all of it. You are essentially giving, this agent a complete education on your company before it handles a single conversation. And then on top of that, because Customer Agent lives inside of HubSpot, it also knows your customers. So when someone reaches out, say I'm reaching out to Zen Plant Care and I'm saying that I'm frustrated because maybe one of my plants died when it arrived or something like that. It's going to ask for my email. I'm going to provide the email. And then it's going to say, oh, yeah, looks like Miranda, received a handful of plants here. In the past, it looks like, she ordered this or that. She had, maybe sent a note previously that, you know, I don't know, something very specific. It's going to know that, right? It's gonna, again, just know every ticket, every conversation, every product. It's just not having to start from scratch, right? It's starting with that complete picture so it's able to respond in a more personalized manner. And that's really what drives that 70% resolution rate. And I think, generic AI tools, again, just don't have that, right? They're just working with what's in front of them and what content, and context you provide. So very cool. Customer agent works with everything your business knows. I would say that that's the difference.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to kind of pause on that screen and look at all the different sources that you can have available. There's a bunch of things that you can upload, but it's if you have a knowledge base, you can connect it to that knowledge base. You got files, you've got information directly from HubSpot. I mean, there's just so many different things that you can connect in one central location. So I think HubSpot does a great job of making it just very easy to give an AI agent access to the information it needs to do its job.
Yeah, and you don't have to be like, you know, we can also cut corners here, right? Like we don't have to always have like a landing page or a file or what have you, right? Sometimes like we know that there's a question we don't want to like have to create content for. You can also just like create a short answer. So what I love about this is I could just literally drop that question, pop in an answer, and then customer agent's going to be trained on it. Yeah, I personally like that one a ton. But yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, and you can also see, the content that is or isn't being used. Maybe you want to sync or remove some files, things like that. Totally, again, in your control. All right, here. Now, this one's really cool. One more thing that I want to show you is this, I think, actually separates people that hit like 70% from the teams that get to like 90. The best customers using Customer Agent aren't just like setting it up and walking away, like you pointed out. They're continuously improving it. And this right over here is kind of what makes it easy. So first, we've got this reporting, but we've got this new tab over here. It's called source usage, and it's actually going to show exactly which knowledge sources are driving resolutions and which ones aren't pulling their weight. So say I've got a knowledge base article that's being surfaced in conversations, but it's not actually resolving anything, then I can see that right here. And that would be a signal, right? That means that Zach, you and I have some work to do on this article. It needs to be updated. Maybe it's missing something. Maybe it's just clearly not answering the question that customers are actually asking, right? On the flip side, if the agent is, say, getting questions and we don't have any content at all, those gaps show up over here in the knowledge gap section. So instead of like having to guess, like, should we, create a content, should we create a knowledge base article on this or that? I can actually see right here, like what customers are asking, and then I can refine it. And this silly sample looks like someone's asking about tractors, and I must admit, I don't have a knowledge base article on that.
Sorry, that was my fault. I shouldn't have asked.
So it looks like we're going to need to create an answer for that. But think of it this way, your agent's getting smarter every time you update your content, right? This is how I think you can really like close the loop between like what customers are asking for and what your agent can actually answer. Over time, your resolution rate is going to continue to get better because again, that knowledge and that content is always improving. Okay, I think we're almost at time here, but I want to show one more thing, which is um, okay, I think I've hammered home that customer agent resolves 70%. Amazing, great, cool. But what about the other 30%, right? What happens when customer agent hits something that it can't handle? Now, we already went through guidelines, but something else that I want to share here is the handoff section. When customer agent decides to hand off to a human, it doesn't just like drop the conversation. It's not like peace by, whatever. It's going to pass everything over that full conversation history, the full customer, CRM record, every interaction they've had. And so that way, when you or someone on your team picks it up, it's going to have that complete context. You don't have to, again, read through forwarded threads or, ask questions. Or ask the customer to repeat themselves, right? You don't have to do any of that. This experience is set so that it is very seamless for the customer, and your rep can actually be helpful immediately. So, we can say some triggers like maybe anytime someone says I'm angry or, I'm frustrated, things like that, you can set. So, really cool there. And I lied to you. I have one more thing actually. This is very new. This is for someone or anyone who's running more than one brand inside of HubSpot. Okay. You can now create a completely separate, let me hop over here, oh, right over here. You can now create a completely separate customer agent for each brand. So, different name, different tone, different knowledge base, different configuration. Each one is going to be built specifically for that brand's customer and that brand's voice. So all you have to do is, again, you do need to have the brand's add-on, but if you have that and you're looking for the solution, you just create another agent, you fill it out, and then the experience is exactly like how I showed you here, where we're setting it up and making sure that it's good to go. It's really good for teams if you've got, again, multiple product lines, say regional brands, maybe different customer segments that need like a very different experience. So that way you're not like forcing, everyone to experience, it all through like one generic agent. Each brand gets its own and they're all managed in the same place. So lots of things here. Again, customer agent can resolve 70% of conversations. You do have to, set it up and customize it in ways that will, complement your business. For those that do have customer agent, teams are closing nearly 40% quicker. Customers are getting instant answers 24/7, whether, your team's on vacation or, it's after hours or, answering those monotonous questions that you're getting. But I think more than numbers, like what we've built here is really a way for us, you, all of us. It's just given us a way to kind of set this up in a way where we're in control. We've got the guidelines, we've got, again, that free trial. And so, yeah, we've got lots of things cooking here.
Yeah. And before we move on from here, I think one other thing that I've just noticed this a lot when we're working with customers that are implementing even other agents, not just agents on HubSpot, but I think a common temptation or a misconception is you want to give that agent absolutely every piece of information that you have. And I think intuitively that seems to make a little bit sense at first, but the problem there is it can actually introduce a lot of noise. And so you want to make sure when you're picking and choosing the content sources that you want to use for this agent, that it is specific to that job. And so if it is a customer agent that is answering questions for customers and it's answering questions about your processes or your business, you probably don't want to introduce your entire sales workflow into that because that's just going to kind of muddy the waters a little bit. And so that's one thing I just wanted to mention is when we're designing these agents, we want to make sure that yes, we're giving it all the context that it needs, but only the context that it needs. We don't want to give it too much because then that can lead to some unexpected results.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was working with a customer a while back where they like uploaded like a URL page from like the 90s. It just kind of got like lumped into the mix of things and they were like, "What the heck? Like why is it answering that way?" And it's like you got to remove that, you definitely want to be careful about what you train the customer agent on.
Yeah, definitely want to make sure you have up-to-date sources, no doubt.
For sure. All right, I'm going to hop back over to the deck.
Awesome. All right. Well, Miranda, that was awesome. Thank you so much for those demos. I think it was exciting just to see how these work, and I think also how easy they are to set up. It's really remarkable. So, when we're talking about how to do this and turning it on and understanding what guardrails are, step one, I think, is where most teams either set themselves up for success or potentially create a little bit of friction right out of the gate. So, this is, of course, yes, it's about turning on Breeze and HubSpot, but it's also understanding the guardrails behind it. So, in addition to enabling AI access in settings, which is very straightforward, what really matters is what we discussed. It's what the AI has access to, it's that context. And so, one of the first things that you want to do is confirm your data sources, make sure that your CRM data is up to date and is accurate and trusted, and at least for whatever specific domain that agent is going to be working in. So I think another misconception is you have to have a completely spotless CRM before you can get started with AI. And I would say that's not true. You can use AI to help you clean your database, but also AI should be bespoke to certain processes and not generalist across the entire organization. And so, as long as you have a few specific domains that are clean enough to be useful and aren't, you know, I would say contaminated with inaccurate or just straight up incorrect data, you can start with AI use cases for those specific processes, right? So, in addition to that, it's thinking about where your conversations are stored. Are you using tickets? Where is your content stored? Really, it's because the AI is really only going to be as good as the context that it can pull from. I like to explain AI as both a mirror and a multiplier. And so it is going to reflect the status of the information that it is grounded in, and then is going to multiply it across all of the different surfaces that you've deployed that AI on. So it's very important to make sure that wherever you're focusing that mirror, that it's reflecting what you want to be seen and then multiply across that organization. So if you have limited access or it's fragmented across the system, then the AI's output can reflect that as well. So maybe it only has partial information instead of the complete picture, or maybe it has way too much information like we talked about before, and it's returning unexpected results. And so it's really about that good middle ground, focusing in on only what is important. So and I'll say this is our perspective, what I'm about to say, but it's an important reframing. It's not about how good your prompts are. AI performance really is not about how well you've written a prompt. It's a function of your data quality, the right level of access, and your structure. And structure is your business processes. Are you able to actually describe the process? Is it in somebody's head that's been doing it for 20 years, or has it been documented? And can that be articulated in a way that AI can pick up on and actually carry out that process for you? So that's a huge chunk of what actually determines whether these types of tools are going to work well or not. So before you jump into use cases or workflows, make sure that you evaluate your foundation. And that is your data foundation and your business foundation. So business fundamentals really matter more than ever when it comes to AI, because you've got to have a strong foundation in terms of your processes and in terms of your data if you want to expect good results when you're using a generative AI tool. So I think what breaks AI adoption, we've talked about a few of these things. Bad data certainly can do that, bad processes. But I think that the number one thing here is to understand where you are going. So you really need a map before you can get to a destination if you're not sure how to get there, right? The same idea is true here. Have a good idea of where you want to go. What is that final destination and where are you starting from? And then kind of figure out how to get from A to B, right? And it doesn't have to be how you're going to use AI to get there. It's how do you think about that business process? And then that can help illuminate areas that AI might be able to assist. Or you may discover that AI isn't the right tool at all. It might just be a simple automation or something that should remain under the domain of a human doing that task. And so just having an idea of those different processes and workflows that you might want to use AI in, you may find that you have completely sort of different results depending on the nature of that process. Speaking of processes, clear processes are very important. Good data, those are both prerequisites to really having a good AI, generative AI implementation. I mentioned the mirror and multiplier, bad processes, bad data. It's going to be reflected in the output. And that's, of course, going to be visible across every surface that the AI is deployed on. Another thing that we see is a lack of leadership championing AI. And I think the main thing there is ultimately when we think about technology and we think about AI and how these can help businesses and be implemented in businesses, it all ultimately comes down to people. It's a people problem first and foremost. And so if you are not able to articulate how this tool is going to help your business or it's going to help in somebody's day-to-day work at a leadership level, you're unlikely to get adoption. And so I think it's really important for leaders to be using these tools and using them in a way that actually produces results so that they can communicate with their entire team. Hey, this is why we are doing this. This is what my experience has been. And on the flip side, it's also a really good idea if you are leading a business to go and talk to your employees and ask them how they're using AI today, because they almost certainly are in some way. And if you don't have AI policies or AI tools at an enterprise level, you don't have any governance over what people are doing outside of those tools. So, I would say that's a really good reason to think about HubSpot AI if you are on HubSpot, because that gives you all the governance that you need. People aren't going to be taking that information outside of HubSpot, copying and pasting CRM information, potentially PII, and taking that into a third-party app that all stays in HubSpot, right? So that's a really good, I think, benefit, obviously, of using HubSpot's AI capabilities, but it can also spur some ideas. And so if you do have team members that happen to be using AI outside of HubSpot or outside of your governance guardrails, understanding why they're doing that and how they're doing that can offer a great opportunity to think about how you can implement that inside of your own governance processes and inside of your own tools, such as HubSpot.
Amazing. All right. All right, so where are we actually going to start? Because I know it is easy to watch this demo and think, wow, that was cool, and then go back to your day and not do anything differently. I I have fallen victim to that. So let me leave you with something concrete. All right. So here's how we think about the first 30 days. Week one, try Breeze Assistant. Ask it a question, prep for a meeting with it, have it draft a follow up. Just start, right? And if you're not sure where to begin, we actually have a prompt library I can drop in the chat where you can use it as a starting point. But in the same way that you use other conversational AI tools, just chat with it. Start with something. Week two, share it with your team. Now, once you've seen, what it can do, pass it on. You can create a few repeatable like prompts or examples and then share them within Breeze Assistant. That's another feature I didn't have a chance to share, but we do have that. What worked for you is going to work for them too, right? And potentially help, save tons of time there. For week three, I would introduce agents. This is where, again, we go from AI helping you to also, working for you. I highly suggest piloting customer agents. Start with, a single page or email channel. Again, we've got 28 days free. What you're not gonna lose anything, right? Trial it, test it, run it, see what happens. Week four, measure and expand, right? Look at the numbers. How much faster are tickets closing? How consistent is follow up? Maybe, where's pipeline visibly improving? Use that data to kind of decide where to go next. Last thing here I'll say is that, the teams that win with AI aren't just the ones with like the most sophisticated setup on day one. They're just the ones who started. So pick something from there, choose a pain point and then give it a shot.
Awesome. Thanks, Miranda. Yeah, and I was just at a conference yesterday talking about, well, how do you get started with AI? And the main thing is just to do it, right?
Yep.
I think we can get analysis paralysis and, sit around and think about ways we could do it. But I think the main way is just to dive in, get your hands dirty and start figuring out how it works. Obviously, do it safely. Do it within your company's governance processes, right? Don't do anything that's gonna, take your data somewhere else, right? You want to make sure that you're doing that in a responsible way. So awesome. And one other thing, and then we'll get into some Q and A's. We really only mentioned a couple of the AI tools available to HubSpot. There are a lot more. There are so many agents in beta that might fit your specific workflow. There's the data agent, which is one of my personal favorites. It can do some incredible things. So make sure to go in and look into some of the other agents and AI capabilities that are available. These, I think, are some of the most immediately usable, but there's a whole world of HubSpot AI tools that are also available. So with that, before we wrap up, we do have a few questions. Have about 6 minutes here to get to some questions. So I don't know if we'll be able to get to them all, but we're going to start just from the top here. One of the first questions we have is, if you were starting from scratch today, what is the highest impact HubSpot AI use case that you would deploy in the first 30 days?
That's that's a good question. I think I would start with like, what your challenges are today, right? And I feel like that would be, different based off of like your persona or your department, right? Or your, what you're doing from day to day. Maybe again, I was speaking with a customer a couple months ago and they were like, we are in meetings all day. We've got, maybe 5 minutes, maybe less than that some days where we are literally just hopping to and from meetings. When we showed them that, you could, prep for a meeting in literally just a couple of minutes, I mean, that over time saved them significant time, right? Over the course of a week and so on and so forth. So I would really just start with like what your challenges are today and what you would wish, you could streamline or make faster. But I don't know, Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll give the typical consulting answer, which is it depends, right?
Right.
I think it depends on what tools you have access to. So if you're on Sales Hub but you're not on Service Hub, well, you might get some benefit from a customer agent from the leads side of things. Of course, you can use
Right.
that for lead capture, but a prospecting agent may be a better option. And then likewise on the flip side, if you're heavily using Service Hub but you don't really do too much on Sales Hub, prospecting agent's not going to really be a high ROI tool for you, but a customer agent might be. So I would say think about what you have and the tools that you use, along with who at your business is using those tools, and that can help you decide from a domain perspective what's going to be most useful. And then, of course, I think domain agnostic is the assistant. Everyone can get use from the assistant. You can create some custom versions of those assistants. So encouraging people to start using that tool and understanding what it can do, I think, is one of the biggest barriers. But that's a great way to get started. for free with no, you're not gonna have to pay anything for Assistant. And then as you think through, what I recommend is having people use Assistant and then exploring the boundaries. So whenever they kind of bump up into things that the assistant can't quite do, that is where you can look at agents and say, okay, is this something that we can invest in that is going to help us break out of the boundary of what the assistant is able to do? That's another really great way to actually get some data from your employees as they're using these tools to figure out what's going to be a good additional investment.
Yeah, I love that. Love that.
So we had one here that says, how do you know your company is ready for AI and HubSpot or whether you need to clean up data first? I won't spend a ton of time on that because we mentioned it a little bit in the presentation, but the main idea there is your whole CRM, your whole organization, it does not have to be perfect, right? But you want to make sure that wherever you have a good opportunity to use AI, that the data and the process is both clean, trusted, and able to be articulated. And as long as that criteria can be met, I think you can get a good AI use case out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. All right, so this is a good one. This is a good one. What are the biggest mistakes that companies make when rolling out AI in their CRM?
That's a great question. I'm curious what you think, but I feel like in my experience, when you just kind of roll out and you just give teams access to it, but they don't quite understand what it can do for you or how it works or what have you, that can be really hard to, successfully implement, right?
Yeah.
I think the best is again understanding like what is that problem that we're trying to solve. Maybe it's meeting prep. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, I'm the worst writer in the world. And when I write, a social media post, it takes me hours to even think of anything, like things like that. Like, what are those pain points? What do you think, Zach?
I think some of the biggest mistakes I see are not starting with a problem. So saying, I want AI, I don't really care where to put it. I get it. Like we all want to figure out how to use these tools, but really the way to do it is to identify problems where AI is a good match. Easier
Yeah.
said than done. I fully realize that, but that I think is super important because you want to make sure that you're aligning the solution to a real problem as opposed to having a solution that's searching for a problem. The other thing is of course not evaluating your data, and beyond that, I say process, but it's also data definition. So is it clear not only what the data is, but semantically, what does it represent? What does it mean? Is it just something we've been recording forever for the past 5 years, or is there actually a good reason for it? And what is the reason that we're capturing it? So I think that's important as well. All right, I want to blitz through just one or two more here. One quick question: can Breeze Assistant also reach out to other databases to add additional context? Miranda, you're welcome to chime in here, but the short answer is yes. Data Hub is likely your answer. You want to be able to connect out to those other tools, and then the assistant will be able to answer questions and derive context from that connected data.
Yep, that sounds right.
Awesome. Then another great question, can it also be connected to our phone system to listen in on a call and summarize the conversation?
Yeah, great question. I think today it is, maybe Zach, you know better than I do, but it's been a minute since I've kind of worked in that space. I want to say it is connected to the, what is it, the phone? What's the feature called in CRM and in
Is
HubSpot?
it conversation intelligence?
Yeah,
Is that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the answer there is uh, a phone system, maybe. Is there a meeting note taker? Absolutely. And so if you want to connect to, let's say, a Zoom call just like this, it could take that information, transcribe it, put it in the CRM, and then it lives in the CRM. It's connected with the right contact, and that becomes a part of the context. So, okay, I do know that there are several other questions. We are at time, however, so if we didn't answer your question, I'm so sorry, but I think maybe we can try to answer those offline and get you some documentation there. But to wrap up here, use Breeze Assistant for context and prioritization, deploy Customer Agent to scale execution, and then remember that success comes from process, data, and guardrails. So our last slide here is just a thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being a part of this. Miranda, thank you so much for the demos and all the added information. If you are curious about how to implement AI in your business on the HubSpot platform, please get in touch with our team at Fast Slow Motion. You can reach us at fastslowmotion.com/contact, or you can reach us by phone at 866-917-8833. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you all have a great week.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.